Have you ever stopped to wonder if something as ordinary as the cooking oil in your pan could slowly be harming your brain? Think about this. Every 40 seconds, someone in the United States suffers a stroke. That adds up to more than 795,000 people each year. And it's not always because of genetics or simply getting older. Often, the real culprit is what we eat over and over again. When we think about protecting the brain, we usually picture crossword puzzles or memory exercises. But in reality, some of the strongest protectors or the most dangerous threats are hiding right inside your pantry. In this video, we'll carefully reveal 5 damaging fats that raise your stroke risk and 5 healthy ones that can keep your brain sharp, steady, and strong well into your later years. But I won't spoil it all up front. Stick around because a few of these will surprise you, especially the ones you've always assumed were good for you. Before we begin, let me ask you something. If you're someone who's curious about how everyday foods affect your body, drop a 1 in the comments. If you usually just go for whatever's easy, type a 0. Either way, you're exactly where you need to be. And don't forget to subscribe to Health 365 so you don't miss more powerful health tips like this. Now let's start with a fat that sneaks into your favorite snacks and silently raises your risk for stroke. Trans fats. These unhealthy fats show up in things like fried chicken, crispy fast food fries, and those soft pastries on grocery shelves that never seem to go stale. Trans fats are created when liquid oils are turned into solid fats like shortening or margarine through a process called hydrogenation. Sounds technical, right? But here's the frightening truth. They don't just sit quietly in your body. Trans fats spark inflammation in your blood vessels, weaken the lining of your arteries, and push bad cholesterol higher. That combination sets the perfect stage for a stroke, bite after bite. In fact, a study in the journal Neurology followed more than 1,600 older adults and found that those with high levels of trans fats in their blood faced up to a 50% greater risk of dementia. That's not just a little forgetfulness. It's your brain's connections breaking down over time. Think about it. Every time you eat golden, crispy fried food cooked in reused oil, you could be feeding the flames of inflammation in your brain and blood vessels. The good news? You can fight back. Always check labels for the words, partially hydrogenated oil. If you see it, put the product back on the shelf. And if you're craving crunch, switch to air-fried veggies or a handful of nuts. You'll still enjoy that satisfying bite without the toxic burden. Now let's look at another fat that's a staple in American kitchens and maybe even more dangerous. Saturated fats. These are the fats that give steak its flavor, make butter rich, and bacon irresistible. While they may please your taste buds, they aren't nearly as friendly to your arteries. Saturated fats show up in red meat, full-fat dairy like butter and cream, lard, and tropical oils such as palm oil. The problem is that eating too much of them raises LDL cholesterol, also known as the bad cholesterol. When LDL builds up, it clogs your blood vessels, limiting blood flow to the brain and increasing the risk of clots and strokes. A major review in the British Medical Journal found that replacing just 5% of your daily calories from saturated fat with healthier fats could cut your stroke risk by nearly 20%. That's a huge payoff from a small adjustment. Picture this: breakfast with a buttery croissant, eggs cooked in bacon grease, and a creamy stew for dinner. Comforting, yes, but repeated every day, it quietly damages your brain. A simple step? Replace butter with olive oil when cooking. Choose leaner cuts of meat. Try a meatless Monday. Your brain and your heart will thank you. Next, let's turn to a fat many people assume is healthy, but in large amounts it can create big problems: omega-6 fatty acids. They're technically essential fats, meaning your body does need them. But here's the catch. Without enough omega-3s to balance them out, too many omega-6 can fuel inflammation. You'll find them in vegetable oils like corn, soybean, and sunflower oil. These oils are everywhere in processed foods, fried meals, and packaged snacks. Think of fast food fries, bottled salad dressings, and even crackers. The typical American diet today is heavily skewed when it comes to omega-6 and omega-3 fats. In fact, the ratio can be as high as 20 to 1. Ideally, that number should be closer to 4 to 1 or even 2 to 1. Research published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition showed that people with a higher omega-6 to omega-3 ratio had more markers of inflammation and faced greater risks of cardiovascular problems. So what can you do? Start cutting back on refined vegetable oils and replace them with healthier choices like extra virgin olive oil or avocado oil. At the same time, bring in more omega-3 rich foods such as salmon, walnuts, chia seeds, or ground flaxseed. The goal isn't to eliminate omega-6 entirely, but to restore balance in your diet. Next, let's look at a type of cholesterol that becomes especially harmful once it's damaged: LDL cholesterol, often called the bad cholesterol. What's rarely mentioned is that it turns particularly dangerous when it becomes oxidized. Think of oxidized LDL like rust forming on metal. Instead of just drifting harmlessly through your bloodstream, it sticks to artery walls, sparks inflammation, and fuels plaque buildup. Over time, this narrows your arteries, raising your risk of both stroke and heart attack. But where does oxidized LDL come from? Most often from eating fried foods cooked in reused oil, like what you find at many fast food chains or street stalls where the same oil is heated over and over until it turns dark and sticky. It can also come from animal fats that have been stored too long in the fridge or freezer. A study in the journal Atherosclerosis found that people with higher levels of oxidized LDL faced much greater risks of stroke and cognitive decline, even when their total cholesterol looked normal. So, it's not just about how much cholesterol you have, but the quality. The good news is you can lower your risk by avoiding deep-fried fast food, especially when you're unsure about the freshness of the oil. Cook more meals at home, use fresh ingredients, and add antioxidant-rich foods like berries, leafy greens, and green tea to your diet. These help protect your LDL from oxidizing in the first place. Now, let's turn to another hidden danger you've likely eaten this week without realizing: hydrogenated oils. These are used to make margarine, shortening, and many processed baked goods. Manufacturers create them to extend shelf life and give food that flaky, satisfying texture. But inside your body, they're doing far more harm. Hydrogenated oils are one of the main sources of trans fats, even when the label claims 0 grams. That's because in the US, products can legally round down to 0 if they contain less than 0.5 grams per serving. So if you eat multiple servings or different products in a day, those small amounts add up quickly. These fats are especially harmful because they not only raise bad cholesterol but also lower good cholesterol, creating a double hit against your arteries. That combination increases inflammation, encourages clot formation, and ultimately raises stroke risk. According to research in the journal Circulation, diets high in hydrogenated oils were strongly linked to ischemic stroke, the kind caused by blocked blood flow to the brain. Imagine this: every time you spread margarine on your toast or bite into a packaged cookie, you could be fueling the very fats that increase your chance of a brain clot. What can you do? Always scan ingredient labels for partially hydrogenated oils. If you see it, leave it. For a healthier crunch, go for air-fried veggies or a handful of nuts. You'll still get that crispy satisfaction without the toxic side effects. Finally, let's revisit a fat that many people can't resist: saturated fats. These are the ones that make steak juicy, butter creamy, and bacon irresistible. But while they're a treat for your taste buds, they aren't nearly as kind to your arteries. Saturated fats are concentrated in red meat, full-fat dairy like butter and cream, lard, and tropical oils such as palm oil. The problem is that eating too much saturated fat raises LDL cholesterol, the bad type. Once LDL levels climb, it begins building up in the walls of your blood vessels, reducing blood flow to the brain and raising the risk of clots and strokes. A large review published in the British Medical Journal found that replacing just 5% of your daily calories from saturated fat with healthier options could lower your stroke risk by nearly 20%. That's a huge benefit from a small change. Think about this: a buttery croissant for breakfast, eggs fried in bacon fat, and a creamy stew for dinner might feel comforting. But repeated day after day, it comes at a steep cost. A smart swap: use olive oil instead of butter, choose leaner cuts of meat, and try a plant-based meal once or twice a week. your arteries, and your brain will reward you. Most people start their mornings with a drink they believe gives them energy, focus, and even health benefits. But shocking new research reveals it may actually be silently damaging your brain, raising blood pressure, and increasing your risk of stroke. The truth is, this isn't some rare chemical or artificial product. It's the everyday drink found in almost every kitchen, the same one many can't live without. Scientists now warn that when consumed too often, it can create tiny blood clots that restrict oxygen to the brain, putting your life at serious risk.